He was dead for 30 minutes. No heartbeat, no brain activity, nothing. And then he woke up and described everything he saw. His name is not important. What he reported is, he described every nurse, every machine position, every procedure step, from directly above the table. Dr. Sam Parnia is a critical care physician at a major American research hospital. He spends every day pulling people back from clinical death. He built his career on data and peer review, the kind of man who needs proof before he believes anything. Then the proof arrived. Patients came back with stories, not vague impressions, very specific details, equipment names, staff positions, exact words spoken in hallways they had never entered, details they could not have seen from a hospital gurney, details matching the official medical records exactly, verified by the clinical team every time. Standard neuroscience has one clear answer for this: impossible. A brain with no blood flow cannot produce coherent perception. The biology does not allow it. And yet reports kept coming. Across hospitals, across states, different patients, same impossible story, told again and again with identical, specific matching details. Standard science says they are confused. But how exactly do you confuse a serial number on a machine you have never seen in your life? That one question turned Dr. Parnia from physician to investigator, and what he found next would redirect the rest of his scientific career entirely. Picture a resuscitation room in an American Midwest hospital. Fluorescent lights, a crash cart against the wall, a team of 5 moving very fast. The patient, 57 years old, goes into cardiac arrest. Heart stops. The team starts chest compressions, standard protocol, everything exactly by the book. But in his own account, something else is happening simultaneously. He drifts upward toward the ceiling and watches the team working on his body. He later describes the surgeon leaning left. The ventilator rhythm, irregular at first, then steady. A nurse stepping back to check the wall monitor. He describes the exact sound the ventilator makes. Not a generic machine hum, the actual rhythm of that specific device in that particular room. He describes a conversation near the door. The content was later confirmed word for word by the 2 staff members who were standing right there. When he wakes, he reports all of it. The team listens, then starts checking. Position, correct. Procedure order, correct. Words spoken, correct. The attending physician's reaction is on record. Quiet, not dismissive, not excited. The kind of quiet that happens when a solid fact breaks your framework. This is not a ghost story. It is a documented medical case that passed institutional review. The details were independently verified by the medical team. Parnia decides to test it, not trust it, not dismiss it. One experiment, one goal: find objective evidence of consciousness existing outside the body. In resuscitation rooms across participating hospitals, he installs shelves near the ceiling, too high to see from any bed. On each, a hidden image. If a patient near the ceiling describes that image, the one no floor-level staff member can see, science has a real problem. 4 years, 2,060 patients. When results came in, they were not what anyone expected. Not proof, not failure. Something far stranger. Van Lommel's data lands like a wrench in the engine. Longer cardiac arrest does not produce more vivid experience. That one fact breaks neurological models. The study is called AWARE, Awareness During Resuscitation. It launches in 2008. 15 hospitals across the US, the UK, and Austria. This is the largest scientific study of near-death experience ever conducted. 4 years of data. Controlled conditions. Medical verification at every step. No shortcuts. Shelves go up. Images are placed. The team does the hardest thing in science. Waits. Every arrest patient in every room is potential data. 2,060 patients enrolled over 4 years. Each one died clinically and came back. Each one a possible answer to the central question. Of those 2,060, 330 survived to be interviewed. Of those, 140 report awareness during resuscitation. Of those 140, 9 report a clear out-of-body experience. Only 2 were in rooms that had shelf-mounted images near the ceiling. Of those 2, One was too ill to finish the interview. The other is 57 years old. He talks. What he says holds up completely. He correctly describes the actions taken, the equipment used, the procedure sequence, and words spoken. Every reported detail is verified by the medical team. He does not describe the shelf image. He was near the ceiling. The shelf was there. He either never looked or could not see it. Parnia's conclusion: one verified case, one inconclusive. Not proof of consciousness outside the body, but not nothing. The experiment closes. The question stays open. One man saw everything in that room, accurate on every detail. But he missed the shelf. That one unexplained gap still has no clean answer. Two competing explanations enter the picture. They cannot both be right. They may both be wrong. One of them comes from a very unexpected place. The standard explanation: under extreme stress, the brain misfires. No oxygen, no blood flow. It produces hallucinations and reconstructs memories in very convincing ways. Oxygen starvation, the argument goes, creates vivid internal experiences. The brain runs on fumes, generating noise that the conscious mind interprets as something real. Here is the problem. Patients who report near-death experiences describe sharp mental clarity, not confusion. That sharpness does not fit the oxygen deprivation model. Memory reconstruction is another option. The brain stitches overheard details into a narrative post-recovery. Plausible, but it cannot explain verified perceptions from above. Dr. Eben Alexander is a neurosurgeon at Harvard Medical School, 25 years of practice. He spent his career explaining near-death experiences as neurological artifacts. His published words, he called them hallucinations of a dying brain. That was his position. Then in 2008, his own brain stopped. E. coli meningitis attacks his brain directly. The neocortex, seat of conscious thought, shuts down. His doctors give him 10% survival odds. 7 days in a coma. His family flies in. His colleagues review the charts. By every clinical standard, his conscious mind is completely gone. When he wakes, he reports a detailed, coherent experience. Specific environments, structured sequences, encounters that felt, he says, more real than the hospital room. His neocortex was not functioning. That is documented. A brain scientist with no working brain reports the most vivid experience of his life. His words. Two models on the table. One says the brain generates all experience. The other says the brain only receives it. Neither fully explains what happened. What if the brain receives consciousness rather than producing it? Like a TV receives a broadcast. Death turns off the screen, not the signal. In 2001, Dr. Pim van Lommel publishes in The Lancet, one of the most respected medical journals on earth, not fringe. His team follows 344 cardiac arrest survivors at 10 Dutch hospitals over 8 years. 18% report near-death experiences, 1 in 5. Here is the critical finding. 0 correlation with duration of arrest. 0 with medications. 0 with psychological profile. 3 zeros the standard model cannot explain. If the brain generates these experiences, patients with longer arrests should report more vivid ones. More misfiring, more hallucination. The data does not show that. Van Lommel's published conclusion in The Lancet: medical factors cannot account for the occurrence of near-death experience. That sentence appeared in peer review. That matters. There is also the EEG problem. Monitoring brain activity during deep coma is imprecise. Microactivity we cannot capture cannot be ruled out. Tools have limits. AWARE 2 has been running since 2014. Parnia's team is still collecting, still waiting for the next patient in the right room. The cross-cultural data adds weight. Reports are consistent across age groups, nationalities, and religious backgrounds. The pattern does not shift with culture. That is strange. If this were purely psychology, wish fulfillment, or projection, you would expect content to vary across cultures and belief systems. It does not. Parnia's own published words: the evidence suggests something is happening that we do not yet have a scientific framework to explain. Not supernatural. Framework incomplete. What if we are missing something fundamental about consciousness itself? Not about death, but about what consciousness is and where it actually lives. Every model assumes the brain produces consciousness, as fire produces heat. But what if consciousness is the heat and the brain is the fire? Mainstream neuroscience holds its position. Dr. Stephen Novella of Yale argues, near-death experiences are products of a stressed brain, not evidence of anything beyond biology. The surge of electrical activity in dying brains, hypoxic effects on neural function, the tendency of memory to reconstruct. These are real scientific objections. Skeptics note that EEG monitoring during coma is imprecise. The experience may have occurred during recovery, not during the arrest itself. Timing here matters. Parnia pushes back. Oxygen deprivation does not explain verified spatial details seen from ceiling level. The brain on the table cannot perceive what was reported. Van Lommel's receiver model, consciousness outside the brain merely processing it, is in peer-reviewed journals. Not mainstream, not fringe, not dismissible. Two credentialed positions, both in print, both backed by data. No consensus. The scientific community is not pretending otherwise. The debate is active and unresolved. Aware 2 is running right now. In an American hospital tonight, a team waits for the next cardiac arrest patient near a ceiling shelf. The next person who might look at the image, no one on the floor can see. 10 years of waiting, no definitive result, still running. What happens to consciousness when the brain stops? That question has been studied, debated, published, contested. It remains open. That is honestly where science stands. Three things are simultaneously true. Near-death experiences are real. Some include verified perceptions during documented arrest. No existing model fully explains all of them. The framework is incomplete. Not broken, incomplete. The scientists who say that ran the studies, read the data, and could not close the file. What does the evidence point to? Is the brain a generator or receiver? Is death a wall or a door? The uncertainty here is honest. The evidence does not give you a final answer. It gives you a sharper question, and sometimes that is exactly where real understanding begins.